Hello, everybody. Welcome into another Texas College Football Extravaganza right here on Pigskin and Burnt Ends, your Texas College Football podcast. I'm IndyCarTim, your host, and we have a massive slate of games to get to in the world of Texas-based college football programs. Of course, we're going to talk Aggies. Of course, we're going to talk Longhorns. We've got Baylor. We've got SMU. We've got Texas Tech continuing dominance. We've got some Abilene Christian, some UTSA, TCU. It is a full slate to get to here on this week's Pigskin and Burnt Ends. Before we get started, though, as always, we have to remind you that this episode of Pigskin and Burnt Ends is sponsored in part by Ticket Smarter. The 2025 college football season is here, and we know you're looking for the best seats at the most competitive prices. We want to make sure you take advantage of Ticket Smarter and their mobile app. We know more than ever that buying college football tickets online requires trust, and Ticket Smarter has partnered with more than 100 universities and 24 conferences as their official ticket resale marketplace. They've also partnered with ESPN Events as an official ticket resale partner as well. Purchase your tickets quickly, securely, and at the best prices on the secondary market with the Ticket Smarter mobile app or at ticketsmarter.com. And just for you guys, we've got two great offers. You can save $10 on your purchase of $100 or more on Ticket Smarter by using the code LWOS10. And if you spend more, you can save more, because if you spend $300 or more and use the promo code LWOS20, you'll save $20 off your purchase. And boys and girls, these are not just one-time offers. Use our codes over and over again this season to save for the best selection of seats to this year's biggest games. Don't wait. Get the biggest selection and pricing now at Ticket Smarter. And remember our codes, LWOS10 and LWOS20. Think smarter. Ticket Smarter. Thank you, Ticket Smarter. Boys and girls, I hope that you buckled down and got your fill of college football this past weekend, because what a weekend it was. Full slates across the Big 12, across the SEC, with the Texas-based college football programs here. And to be quite honest, we probably don't have time to get into everything we need to get into. But that's okay. We're going to hit the highlights. Like I mentioned, we've got some UTSA talk, which we don't do a lot of. We've got some Abilene Christian, and actually that's where I wanted to start with you guys, as the Abilene Christian Wildcats roll over those North Alabama Lions. Earl Stone throws 4 touchdown passes as ACU cruises over North Alabama. Colt Copper recovered a pair of fumbles. That helped ACU in that 52-23 win. Earl was 22 of 32 for 264 yards and an interception. Brian Henry had a pair of short touchdown receptions to help the Wildcats move to 3-3, 2-0 in United Athletic Conference play. They took a 28-7 lead in the first half. Javon Gibson had a 39-yard scoring catch, and J.J. Henry a 28-yard opening drive of the second half. Jordan Vaughn led a rushing attack that piled up 230 yards with 84 yards, including a 75-yard touchdown. E.J. Wilson and Grant Jones also had touchdowns on the ground. Look, the Abilene Christian Wildcats have been up and down this year. There's no question. And playing against a lesser opponent in North Alabama. And, you'd like to think these teams are a little more evenly matched, but that's not always the case, even in these smaller conferences, as ACU just rolls. DC Tabscott threw 2 touchdown passes for the Lions, who moved to 1-4, 0-1 in the conference now. They lost 4 of the 6 fumbles that occurred. Javion Allen ran for 102 yards and a touchdown. They did find some success on the ground, North Alabama did, against ACU, but too much for ACU there at Wildcat Stadium, where almost 8,000 people watched the win. Abilene Christian 2-0 in the conference now, 3-3 overall. They're behind Tarleton State, who leads the conference at 6-0 overall, 2-0 in the conference. Who's going to catch Tarleton State? We haven't even talked about Tarleton State this year. We've got to get in on the Tarleton State bandwagon here, along with everybody else. There are so many schools here in Texas that are doing well this year. Like I said, it's kind of hard to get to everybody in these shows, but we need to make room for Tarleton State. We'll definitely get into some Tarleton State talk next week for you guys. The UTSA Roadrunners, the team in Texas, is this the only loss we had? I believe so. Out of the teams that we are discussing this week, UTSA falls to the Temple Owls there in the American, 27-21 in Temple, as Evan Simon threw two touchdown passes. Hunter Smith had a long touchdown run. Temple dominated the second half for a 27-21 win there in the American Atlantic Conference opener for both teams on Saturday. Patrick Overmeyer had a touchdown rushing and a touchdown receiving as the Roadrunners took a 14-3 halftime lead. But after the Owls had just 108 yards in the first half compared to 178 for UTSA, offensive coordinator Tyler Walker moved from the booth to the sidelines. And apparently that made all the difference in the world. If he doesn't coach from the sidelines the rest of the season, then there's something wrong. Because, again, after Temple had just 108 yards in the first half with Walker in the booth, he comes down to the sidelines, and Temple gets 219 yards in the second half. The Owls open the second half with a 10-play, 75-yard drive capped by an 8-yard receiving touchdown for JoJo Bermudez. One play after Jameer Jones intercepted Owen McCown, Smith popped through the left side for a 54-yard touchdown for a 17-14 lead. The Roadrunners quickly regained the lead on McCown's 18-yard pass to Devin McQuinn, but the Owls went 38 yards to take the lead on Simon's 15-yard pass to Peter Clark. The Roadrunners held to 41 yards and 2 first downs in the fourth quarter with an interception, giving the ball up on downs twice. Simon finished 16-25 for 199 yards. McCown was 25-37 for 234 yards and 2 scores with 2 interceptions for the Roadrunners. The second half, just too much. And I've never heard of a coach. Well, obviously we've heard of coaches making a move. I don't know about mid-game. I'm sure that's happened, but that's pretty rare. But especially when you get the result that you got for the Owls in the second half, just stick them on the sideline there at Temple for the rest of the season. I'm sure that's what they're going to do for sure. But UTSA goes down. They fall to 2-3, 0-1 in the American. Temple 3-2, 1-0 in the American there. Boys and girls, let's get on with some Texas A&M Aggies. As you know, my Texas A&M Aggies are my favorite team, of course. We've all discussed that. If you've listened to the show, you're familiar. Alma mater, family alma mater. Definitely my favorite college football team. And luckily for me, it's been a great season so far. Long way to go here. And as I have mentioned before, this is a different Texas A&M Aggies team. They seem to be winning those games that over the past few years, they very easily lost. Even against the really, really good teams over the past few years, you could put yourself in position to win, and something always happens. Either a bad play, a missed throw, a missed block, a missed assignment, a dropped catch, whatever it's been just horrific outcomes in some cases for the Aggies when they are playing elite competition. We'll put it that way. But now this season, it seems like the Aggies are the elite competition because rolling into this week, as you were hosting Mississippi State, you had every opportunity for this to be a trap game. And I don't really like the word trap game because it's not like teams just don't prepare or I don't think teams overlook opponents. I don't care who you are. I don't think that happens. Coaches don't let that happen. These guys, are old enough to not let that happen. But the Aggies clearly had every reason to, overlook an opponent, if that's a thing, as Mississippi State in a lot of cases was favored in this game. Mississippi State was picked by some of the so-called analysts and pundits Yes, I said that on purpose. To beat Texas A&M there at Kyle Field. And for a little while, it looked like as these two teams struggled offensively, it looked like that everything was setting up for a Mississippi State second half that might put the Aggies in their place at Kyle Field. But KC Concepcion caught 2 touchdown passes as the Aggies dominate on defense for the second consecutive week for a 31-9 victory at Kyle Field over the Bulldogs. The Aggies improved to 5-0 for the first time since 2016. They're 2-0 in the Southeastern Conference now. Mike Elko, proud of his team. He said after the game, quote, "We've just got to keep grinding and continuing to get better. You're in an SEC football game, and SEC football games are not easy," end quote. Well, he's experienced a little bit of that last year, and he experienced that as the defensive coordinator under Jimbo Fisher for a couple of years. He's certainly familiar with the atmosphere and the culture around SEC football, but it looks like he's excelling pretty well at this point in his second year in Aggie land. The Bulldogs 4-2, 0-2 in conference play are still aiming for their first SEC victory, and Coach Jeff Lebby's 2 seasons held a 3-0 lead for most of the first half. The slow-starting Aggies finally got on the scoreboard with 1:51 remaining in the second quarter on a 34-yard touchdown reception by Concepcion. Concepcion caught Marcel Reed's pinpoint pass at the 5 and carried cornerback Kelly Jones into the end zone on one of the day's most impressive plays. It was an incredible throw from Marcel Reed, who is more known as a running quarterback, but he is more and more as this season progresses showing flashes of what his arm can do. And you got to have both in the SEC. You can't just be a one-dimensional quarterback, either with the legs or with the arm. You got to be prepared to use both. The Aggies added a touchdown late in the third quarter. Concepcion's 2-yard reception to increase their lead to 14-3. They limited the Bulldogs to a lone fourth-quarter touchdown following the early field goal. Texas A&M now the past 2 weeks have limited Auburn and Mississippi State to a combined 1 for 23 on third down conversions in its 2 SEC games. That is insane. I don't care what your 2 opponents are in the SEC. That stat is hard to wrap my head around. 1 for 23 in the past 2 games on third down conversions is what this Aggies defense has held its opponent to. The Aggies rushed for 299 yards, 80 more yards than the Bulldogs collected in total offense. Reuben Owens led the Aggies with 142 yards on 21 carries. And I believe I said, because Mississippi State heading into this game was, I think, allowing just 50-something yards per game on the ground. It was an insane stat from a defensive standpoint on the ground in yards allowed. And on my Texas A&M Aggies Daily Blitz podcast over at FanStream Sports, I predicted the Aggies would rush for 200 yards in this game as a team. And boy, howdy, they upped me with 299 total yards. I'm not going to toot my own horn here or anything, but I was right. The Aggies played before 108,572 fans. That is the 5th largest crowd in Kyle Field history. The Bulldogs now have lost their 14th consecutive SEC game dating to 2023 prior to Lebby's arrival. If there's something good to take away from this for Lebby and the Bulldogs, he held Texas A&M's offense to just 1 touchdown for nearly 3 quarters. Now, it's a 4-quarter game, so that doesn't really mean anything, although then you played well for almost 3 quarters. But at some point, the Aggies offense, as stout as it is, will find a way. The Aggies entered the contest as one of the nation's most penalized teams, prompting Elko to joke this week that he was going to start a Cabo fund with penalized A&M players helping fund A&M coaches' vacation to Mexico. The Aggies followed with 7 penalties in the first half against MSU, a week after collecting 13 total against Auburn, but cleaned up their act in the second half with just 2 over the final 2 quarters. It's going to be interesting the rest of the way for the Aggies. And we did have a storyline inside the storyline here during this game that wasn't talked about I don't think, on the broadcast nearly enough, as one of the Aggies' most elite offensive weapons, receiver Mario Craver. Of course, he's just a year removed from being one of Mississippi State's most promising young players, transferred to Texas A&M and had a big game here against his old team. I don't think that that was talked about nearly enough. He finished with 6 catches for 80 yards, both game highs. So, it's going to be an interesting season the rest of the way for the Aggies, the rest of the way for the Bulldogs. But as the Aggies now host Florida coming up, the team that, talk about a great transition, the team that just stomped the Texas Longhorns this past weekend. Mississippi State is at Florida on October 18th after a bye week. But let's get into maybe the most hyped game of this week, and I'm not sure why. Look, and I've tried to stay positive about the Longhorns, regardless of my affiliation with the Aggies. If you've listened to this show, I'm a Manning fan. I'm a Manning family fan. My favorite quarterback growing up was Archie. I've got love for Peyton. I've got love for Eli. I even named one of my kids Eli. All right. Only because the wife at the time would not allow me to name him Archie. And though she had no idea where the references were from, was not going to go Peyton, because I think that's a girl's name in my brain, with all apologies to Peyton Manning. So Eli was next on the list. We went with that. She still has no idea. He's 17 now. She still has no idea where that name came from, but she dug it. So that's where we went. So look, I'm not a Manning hater. I'm not even a Longhorns hater at this point, but there has been so much discussion. Preseason number 1, by the way, here now at this point of the college football season, your preseason number 1, preseason number 2, and preseason number 4, all out of the top 25. Texas, Penn State, and Clemson. Can we just do away with preseason rankings, please? I don't know what purpose they serve other than disappointment for teams that aren't that good. Look, and I've experienced that as an Aggies fan, seeing the Aggies ranked in the top 10 in the preseason, and then they're out after 3 or 4 games when they got 2 losses. Again, that's the old Aggies that we've been talking about. This is not, as they say, your father's Aggies team. It's not my father's Aggies team. My dad played for the Aggies, by the way. That's one of the reasons I'm a big Aggies fan. But look, this Texas Longhorns team is not good, and it's not just the quarterback. I think the game against Florida exposed, and we've already seen it some this season. And you know what? Throw the Ohio State loss in week 1 out the window. That was just an impossible atmosphere. That was an impossible game for the Longhorns to win. Maybe even if they were clicking on all cylinders, that is near impossible to go into the Horseshoe and beat Ohio State in week 1. So I'll even excuse that. But the other games, aside from Sam Houston State, this offense has not looked good, and it's not just because of Arch. This offensive line is horrific. It might be the most, I'm trying to figure out a way to say this politely, underperforming unit on the entire team, and I'm including the quarterback position. They can't run block. They can't pass block. Arch has 0 time to do anything. And when he panics, he makes bad decisions. Don't forget this is his first season starting. I get it. All right. But that offensive line, and I don't understand why. You knew the situation as a program. I'm not just going to throw Sark under the bus here because he's got an entire staff, an entire recruiting department, an entire NIL department that evaluates players and makes recommendations and things like that. You knew the situation coming into this season that Arch had never started before. You were handing the reins over to him with this offense. And the most important thing for a young player, I don't care if you're first-time high school starter, first-time college starter, first-time NFL starter, is an offensive line. So I don't know if they thought as a program they were in a better spot with the offensive line. I don't know if they knew there were some deficiencies there, but it's what they got. They got to roll with it, which would have been a horrible decision if that was the situation. I'm more likely to tend to believe that they thought they were in a better spot, and you just got some guys that are underperforming. Either way, this is not all on Arch, but he is bad. He has looked really, really overmatched, confused, just out of place. And I said it last week that, especially after the Sam Houston State win, the 55-0, everybody proclaiming that Arch is back, Texas is back. That was a bunch of bull honky because of the competition. You scored 55. Arch had a great game against Sam Houston State. As I mentioned last week, the players at Sam Houston State are probably just a notch or a tick above the level of competition that Arch had in high school. And we all know what Arch did in high school. He dominated. So, yeah, of course he's going to play well against those guys. But now you go to Florida, who's not a great SEC team, by the way. They're unranked. They're 2-3. And this is what happens. And that's the type of competition he's going to get the rest of the way in the SEC. And I'm a little scared for Arch. I'm scared for the Longhorns. This thing could get way worse before it gets better. And I don't know what the answer is. You can't make a quarterback change. You've got to improve in other areas. You've got to give Arch some more time. You've got to find a way to get Arch some confidence. And that's not going to happen when he's got 0.4 seconds to throw or figure out which way to run. It's not going to happen. So, yeah, on the Florida side of it, DJ Lagway looked really, really good as Dallas Wilson in his college football debut just looked unstoppable. Lagway throws for a season-high 289 yards, 2 touchdowns, both of them to Dallas Wilson, a true freshman, to making his college debut. As Florida ends a 3-game skid against your Longhorns. Again, I don't want to call it an embarrassment. The Longhorns weren't embarrassed. Look, they lost 29-21. It was a late score that made the game look much closer than it was. I realize that. But look, the Gators are still the Gators. They're still playing the swamp. That is a tough place to go, a tough place to win. I don't care what the Gators' record is. I don't care what their team looks like. Lagway is a good quarterback. Now Dallas Wilson is a huge weapon on that side. And, I think we saw some cracks in the Texas defense in this game as well. The Longhorns secondary looked a lot like the Dallas Cowboys secondary at times. Not good. So Texas 0-1 in the conference, 3-2 overall. Lots of places to look for improvement. Sark's got his work cut out for him. And you can just cross your fingers that they figure some things out. Because the schedule will not get much easier for the Longhorns now, as you've got OU this weekend at Fair Park at the Texas State Fair at the Cotton Bowl. Now that's an OU team that's not going to have John Mateer. So if you've got anything going for you in this game, John Mateer will not play, the Dallas native, the Little Elm native from right here in my backyard. And then you've got Kentucky on the road, Mississippi State on the road, Vanderbilt at home. I don't know that Texas can beat Vanderbilt. I don't know that Texas can beat any of these teams, to be quite honest. Now, they probably will, just based on percentages. But then you've got Georgia on the road, and then Arkansas at home. Probably beat Arkansas before your annual matchup with the Aggies after Thanksgiving. This time is at DKR. So you've got that going for you. But I'm a little scared for the Longhorns, and I would love to hear from you Longhorns fan. Find me at IndyCarTim on social media, X, Threads, BlueSky, Facebook. If you're watching the video on FanStream Sports YouTube channel, I appreciate hearing from you there in the comments section. Or if you are listening on the College Gridiron Coast to Coast Network, Find me on social media. Let's discuss these Longhorns. What is wrong? How can it get fixed? I appreciate hearing from you guys. The show is for y'all, not just me sitting here spouting off my useless information. But yeah, we will continue to monitor the Texas Longhorns situation throughout the rest of the season. We had another big Big 12 game matchup that went down to the wire as the Baylor Bears hosting the Kansas State Wildcats. Connor Hawkins' kick after Jacob Redding's long pick six helps lift Baylor past Kansas State 35-24. My very good friend with Pewter Report covers the Bucks in Tampa, Scott Reynolds, big K-State fan. He's not had a good couple of weeks. And regardless of how well things were going in this game for Kansas State early, you can't be too certain. You can't put the win in the books too early with these Wildcats, as Baylor scores 18, outscores the Wildcats 18-3 in the fourth quarter for the win. Connor Hawkins kicked a 53-yard field goal with 31 seconds left after that Jacob Redding 66-yard interception return for a touchdown. Baylor rallied twice in the fourth quarter for the win. Hawkins matched the longest kick of his career after Luis Rodriguez had put the Wildcats in front with a 22-yard field goal with 1:48 remaining. K-State falls to 2-4, 1-2 in the Big 12. They had to settle for the kick after having a first down at the Baylor 2-yard line. Rodriguez had a chance for a game winner from 56, but Cooper Lance blocked it with 2 seconds to go. The Bears improved to 4-2, 2-1 in the conference. They held on 2 weeks after losing to Arizona State on a game-ending field goal in their previous home game. Michael Trigg had career highs with 8 catches for 155 yards, sparked Baylor's rally from a 14-point deficit in the fourth quarter with a 42-yard grab before making a spectacular one-headed catch while getting 1 foot down on the sideline, gaining another 29 yards. That was an amazing play. If you guys haven't seen that either live or on social media somewhere, that was an amazing catch by Trigg. Robertson's 11-yard scoring pass to Bryson Washington came on the next play. Robertson's 2-point conversion, rather, on a run cut Baylor's deficit to 31-25. Avery Johnson threw for 339 yards and 2 touchdowns. He ran in for another score. He had kept the potential clock-killing drive alive with 2 third-down conversions. He threw into traffic on first down in Baylor territory with a 6-point lead. Redding picked off the pass, ran left up the sideline, and cut back inside with the speedy Johnson pursuing to finish off the score untouched. The point after gave Baylor a 32-31 lead with less than 5 minutes to go. Johnson's 12-yard scoring pass to Jace Brown broke a 17-17 halftime tie, and the Wildcats went up 2 touchdowns on Dylan Edwards' 5-yard run late in the third quarter. So this is the third time this season that the Wildcats have led or been tied in the fourth quarter of a loss. They've had a 1-score margin, a nation-leading 5 times in 6 games. 3 of the losses are by 3 points or fewer. For Baylor, Robertson had 2 TD tosses, ending his streak of consecutive games with at least 3 scoring passes at 5. It was the longest since Kyler Murray had 8 in a row with Oklahoma in 2018. His 345 yards passing were almost right on his nation-leading average. So, big win for Baylor. Another huge loss for the Wildcats as they are now making a habit out of these losses. Not fun for my buddy Scott Reynolds and you Wildcats fans, but Baylor finding a way to get it done at 4-2 now, 2-1 in the Big 12, and I still keep hearing rumblings from the Bears fans about Dave Aranda. When are we going to fire Dave Aranda? I just don't know that there's a better option out there for you guys, and this is true at any level. If you're an NFL coach, a fan, you don't like your coach, as long as he's winning, there's probably not a better option out there. And I know that the Bears have had their issues the last couple of years. There's no question. But right now, you get rid of Aranda, who are you going to bring in? Who's going to be better? I don't know. You've got to be careful with stuff like that. And that's why programs stick with their coaches as they should. Case in point, Oklahoma State. Look how long it took to get rid of Mike Gundy. And by long, I don't mean 20 years to get rid of him. I mean, it took 4 games to get rid of him this year when he probably should have been gone after last season. But big win for the Baylor Bears, big loss for the K-State Wildcats. Another big win for the now 3-2 SMU Mustangs as they best the Syracuse Orange. Still weird for me to say Syracuse Orange because they're not the Orange Men anymore. Orangemen, as they rebranded to just the Orange. I don't know, 10 years ago? I don't remember when it was, but it's still weird for me to get used to. As the Orange fall to 3-3, 1-2 in the ACC. Kevin Jennings passed for a career-high 4 touchdowns as SMU gets past Syracuse. Jennings passed for 285 yards and a career-high 4 touchdowns in the game. Jennings completed 29 to 35 passes with 1 fourth-quarter interception for an 82.9 completion percentage. Second highest in program history for 20-plus attempts to Justin Willis's 87% in 2006 when he went 20 of 23. Jennings threw scoring passes of 15 yards to Ymir Knight, 16 yards to R.J. Maryland, 14 yards to Derek McFall, and 9 yards to Jordan Hudson as SMU broke to a 31-3 lead early in the fourth quarter. And I wasn't watching this game live. I forgot what was on at the same time. I've had 2 or 3 games. I was flipping back and forth. But I saw 31-3, and I didn't switch back. And then as I'm watching other games and I'm monitoring social media, of course, on X, I start seeing SMU fans panicking. I started seeing SMU fans posting that SMU forgot to show up for the second half. They quit in the second half, blah, blah, blah. I mean, the third quarter was okay. Syracuse scored 15 in the fourth quarter. And based on the tweets that I was seeing, the posts on X, I thought SMU had given up the lead. I mean, it was dire straits for the poor Mustang fans. And then I'd flip back over close to the end of it, and I saw the final score, and I'm like, okay, come on, guys. We know this is not the best SMU team this season. They're not anywhere near what they did last year, but they didn't give up. They weren't not playing in the second half. The Orange just kind of went on a little run there in the fourth quarter, and it is what it is. But the SMU Mustangs, we talked about it last week a little bit, just not – I don't know if you want to call it not having the luck that they had last year. The roster's basically the same. I think need to talk to my friend Rich Phillips, who does play-by-play for them. Maybe need to get him on to talk a little bit about the Mustangs roster this year, what might be going wrong for them. But it's just not, they're not catching that magic, that lightning in a bottle that they did last year. And it's hard to do as kind of an upstart program. Again, your first year in the ACC last year, tons of success. And I'm not going to say they're not having any success. They're 3-2. We'll see where the rest of the season takes the pony. Oh, we're not supposed to call them the ponies anymore. Sorry. The Mustangs. But the schedule ahead for the Mustangs, Stanford coming up on the 11th. You've got a Clemson team that's in shambles right now on the ACC network on the 18th. Then you've got at Wake Forest. Then you host the Miami Hurricanes. Boys and girls, if you are in the Dallas area, or if you're not in the Dallas area, if you're within driving distance of Dallas, do what you can to make arrangements to be at Ford Stadium for that Miami game. If it's not already sold out, I don't know. I'm going to try to be there. Number one, support your Mustangs. Number two, Miami's really good. If it's your only shot to see them live, you might want to take advantage of that. The week after Miami, you're at BC. After that, you you host Louisville, then at Cal to close out the season. So I don't know where the Mustang season is going to take them beyond here. You should probably beat Stanford. You should probably beat Clemson. You should probably beat Wake. Probably lose to Miami. Might lose one of those last 3, just statistically speaking. So think good thoughts for the Mustangs rolling forward. Speaking of rolling forward, boys and girls, the Texas Tech Red Raiders keep doing that as we had a matchup in the Big 12 of unbeatens. You had the 4-0 Red Raiders on the road at the 4-0 Houston Cougars. It was a game that, as it played out, it didn't play out the way I thought. I thought we would have a defensive battle, which we did in the second half. But the Red Raiders offense just finding ways to click. And the Cougars offense behind Connor Weigman did not find ways to click. Held scoreless in the second half, held to just 11 points as the Red Raiders roll in Houston, 35-11. Score could have been bigger. Baron Morton threw for 345 yards and a touchdown. Jacoby Williams ran for 2 scores as the Red Raiders improved to 5-0 over previously unbeaten Houston on Saturday night. It's the first time the Red Raiders have won their first 5 games since opening the 2013 season 7-0. It's the 8th 5-0 start in school history. And if you listen to the show regularly, you've heard me talk. You've heard me use the word dominating. It's a lack of a better word. That's the reason I use that so much. I don't know, stomping, obliterating, shellacking. That's what the Texas Tech offense has been doing to opposing defenses this year. They've won each contest by at least 24 points, and they have outscored opponents this year. Are you ready for this? Sit down. You might need to sit down for this. If you're driving in the car listening, pull over before I say this because it's going to be shocking. Shocking. Texas Tech has outscored its opponent this year through 5 games, 243-56. Let me say that again. 243-56. Weigman threw for 71 yards with an interception in the first half for Houston before going to the locker room late in the second quarter with an apparent injury. He did not return. Coach Willie Fritz did not provide specifics on his injury, said he's waiting on more information on the condition of him. And I have not seen here as I record this on a Tuesday, I have still not seen any updates on Weigman's situation on his injury. The Red Raiders were up by 6 late in the first quarter after 3 field goals when Morton found Cameron Dickey on a short pass. He juked 2 defenders and ran untouched for 69 yards and a score. The 2-point conversion failed to leave Tech up 15-3. Jacob Rodriguez intercepted Weigman's pass, returned it to the Houston 25 early in the second quarter. Texas Tech cashed in 5 plays later when Williams scored on a 5-yard run to make it 22-3, and the route was on. Caleb Johnson had a season-high 114 yards receiving on 7 catches for Tech. Corey Eakin added 10 catches for 81 yards. Williams had 107 yards rushing. Dickey ran for 98 on 21 carries as the Red Raiders piled up 552 yards of offense. And it's odd because despite the perfect start and dominating defenses, Baron Morton said he thinks that they can do better. He said after the game, quote, "There's a next level that no one has seen," end quote. Baron Morton, if there is a next level to this team's offense, I can't wait to see it because I can't even imagine that. There is no, I can't even fathom that the way this offense is playing right now. But you know what? I'm not going to dispute him. Who am I to say that? Zayon Chris took over after Weigman exited and scrambled for 11 yards in his first play before throwing a 64-yard touchdown pass to Amari Thomas on his second. About 90 seconds before halftime, he connected with Stephon Johnson on the 2-point conversion that cut the lead to 25-11. But that would be it scoring-wise as Chris throws for 93 yards with an interception. He also led the team, despite not playing the whole game, with just 59 yards rushing, and that tells you a little bit about how dominant that Texas Tech ground defense has been. Texas Tech missed a field goal at the end of the second quarter before hitting one from 29 in the third to push the lead to 28-11. The Red Raiders missed a field goal from 53 later in the third before the second TD by Williams early in the fourth on a 1-yard run, which left Texas Tech up 35-11. The Red Raiders, of course, they are moving up. They're in the top 10 now in the polls. Then that was sort of thank you to Penn State and Texas losing. But yes, this team, the way it's playing now, is a top 10 team, and it's now being reflected in the polls. The Cougars have certainly improved from last year's 4-8 squad, but when they make mistakes, it's hard for those mistakes to be overcome by this young team. But they are improving. I have been impressed with Houston this year, as I've talked about them on this show. And, man, again, I don't know who or what can stop this Red Raiders offensive train rolling. Tech hosts Kansas next Saturday. Houston's at Oklahoma State next Saturday. You know, if you want instant predictions, I think both teams win. I don't think Texas is any match, or Kansas is any match for the Red Raiders. After Kansas, Texas Tech hosts Oklahoma State. They're at KSU. They host BYU and UCF before ending the season at West Virginia. This thing could go undefeated. Now, will they? I don't know. BYU's playing pretty good this year. They're ranked in the top 25 right now. UCF is always dangerous. They had a great start to the season. They've fallen off a little bit, but they've still got a stacked roster. Thankfully, that game is at home against UCF in the penultimate game of the season. But, yeah, Texas Tech's got a chance to roll here. And it's going to be fun to watch the rest of the way. One more game to get to here on the slate for the Pigskin and Burnt Ends right here on the College Gridiron Coast to Coast Network and FanStream Sports per video. And that is TCU in Colorado. The Horned Frogs get past the Buffaloes at home 35-21, pushing the Horned Frogs record to 4-1, 1-1 in the Big 12. Colorado falls to 2-4, 0-3 in the Big 12 as Deion Sanders' team is sort of in shambles up there. And by the way, we want to thank the good thought for Coach Prime for Deion Sanders, as he revealed after the game that he believes he is dealing with some more blood clots in his leg. He's had a ton of health issues here the last couple of years. I don't know if that's affecting the play on the field or not, if it's affecting his preparation, his coaching, whatever. This team's not very good, and we want to thank the good thought for Coach Prime. As he mentioned, he will see doctors about some potential blood clots in his leg, but he appears to be in a ton of pain, and we want him to certainly get better. Josh Hoover threw for 2 of his 4 touchdowns to Eric McAllister and ran for another score as the Horned Frogs overcome a 2-touchdown deficit to beat the Buffaloes on Saturday night in the Buffaloes' first trip to Fort Worth since Coach Sanders' winning debut there 2 years ago. TCU went ahead for good on Hoover's 18-yard touchdown to Joseph Manjack with 5:44 left. That came only a few plays after a disputed offensive pass interference call wiped out a big 4th down gain inside the 5-yard line and forced the Frogs to punt. That kick ricocheted off the back of a Colorado player and was recovered by tight end Chase Curtis. Hoover completed 23 of 33 passes for 275 yards. McAllister had 4 catches for 65, added a 21-yard score on a 4th down play with 19 seconds left. McAllister was back after missing a game because of a hamstring issue. Since 8 catches for 254 yards and 3 touchdowns against SMU in TCU's last home game 2 weeks ago. The Buffaloes blew a 14-point lead for the second week in a row and had 4 turnovers. Caden Salter was 18 of 29 for 217 yards with 2 touchdowns to Amari and Miller. Salter also ran for a score, but threw 3 interceptions by halftime. The quarterback position there in Boulder is a mess. I'm not sure what they can do to figure that out. Salter's first throw of the night, as a matter of fact, was an interception. His second pick led to McAllister's 23-yard touchdown for a 14-14 tie with just 1:32 left before halftime and only 66 seconds after Hoover's 1-yard touchdown run. Salter's last interception came at the goal line on the final play before the break, kept Colorado from being able to regain the lead. The Buffaloes made it to the TCU 2 after 2 big plays and a pass interference penalty in the end zone. But Salter's next throw intended for Miller was intercepted after being deflected by Jamel Johnson, who had the first interception. And that pretty much wrapped things up. I don't know what to think of TCU. They're 4-1, as we mentioned, overall. I don't know that this is truly a 4-1 team. The Buffaloes, as I mentioned, are kind of in shambles right now. Quarterback play, not good. Offensive line play, not good. At 4-1 for TCU going the rest of the way. They're at K-State coming up. They've also got matchups with Baylor, West Virginia, Iowa State, who just fell. BYU, as I mentioned, top 25 team. They're pretty good this year. They still have Houston on the road and then Cincinnati at home to end the season. You know, where are we looking in the Big 12? I still think, you know, obviously Texas Tech is going to compete for a Big 12 title, but behind them, I mean, you're probably looking at BYU. They're 5-0. Arizona State's 4-1. Cincinnati's 4-1. Iowa State's now 5-1 after the loss. Baylor 4-2. Kansas 4-2. Arizona 4-1. Houston 4-1. Tech 4-1. Utah 4-1. Beyond that, yeah, the competition seems to fade a little bit. But, yeah, this Big 12 is wide open, man, and I can't wait for the rest of the season. These teams are going to tear each other up. If you need some good football, go watch any Big 12 matchup this season. And it's going to be exciting for you for sure. But that's going to wrap up this week's Pigskin and Burnt Ends. Appreciate everybody tuning in for us here today. I'm IndyCarTim. I'm here with you every week on the Pigskin and Burnt Ends Texas College Football podcast. The Burnt Ends refers to food, beverage, things like that. We didn't have time for that today. I promise we'll get into some of that. Texas barbecue versus other states barbecue, all of that good stuff. As we also continue to delve into college football. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate very much Ticket Smarter. Think smarter. Think Ticket Smarter as the partial sponsor of the show today. And every week, don't forget those codes, LWOS10 and LWOS20 for Ticket Smarter. We'll be back next week with another Pigskin and Burnt Ends. Until then, boys and girls, we'll see you.